electric cars practical? Can they be used on a daily basis? And does it even make sense to buy them in India? Well, in what is Autocar India's very first all-electric car road test, we aim to answer just that. And to do the same, we brought along the MG ZS EV and the Hyundai Kona. Now, both these cars are equally priced and both get a long battery range. Now, we've put them through our exhaustive tests to see how they perform in the real world. So let's get straight to it. And before you ask, the Tata Nexon EV is priced much lower than these two, and it has a smaller battery pack too, and therefore sits in a class lower. So we'll have to wait until it gets a proper electric rival in its own segment before we do a comparison with it. Let's start off with some stats and numbers. The MG uses a larger 44.5 kWh battery pack, but the Kona's electric motor generates more torque. Hyundai claims a range of 452 km to a single charge, whereas the MG's certified range is 340 km. But we had to find out the real-world range for ourselves to reach more conclusive and realistic numbers. So, more on that in just a bit. Both these offers similar levels of performance, at least in the city. And the Eco mode is very drivable with instant torque on command. Now, the minute you want to close in a gap or make a quick overtake, you just flex your right foot and it just darts into traffic. So performance is very zippy. The way these cars deliver performance is extremely linear, and they build speed relentlessly. Put it into sport mode and the MG's performance is slightly better. It even does the 0 to 100 sprint in just 8.5 seconds, whereas the Kona takes 9.09 seconds to do the same. And every time you lift your leg off the accelerator, the electric motor will slow down the vehicle and recharge the battery in the process. This process of regenerating charge takes a bit of getting used to, at least initially, as it is very different from a petrol or diesel car. Although both these cars offer the option of minimal deceleration too. An added advantage of the regenerative function is that it will improve your travel range to an extent. Both the cars have 3 levels of regenerative braking. The Kona, however, has the stronger, the more aggressive regen function. And it also gets paddle shifts, but these are to control the intensity of the regen, and it's even possible to come to a complete halt by just tugging the left paddle. Check this out. There are disc brakes at each wheel in both the cars. When it comes to sound insulation, the MG's cabin is quieter. There's almost zero sound from the motor, be it at idle or on the move. The ZS EV blocks out the road and tire noise much better, although you can hear the occasional thud and thunk from the suspension of the MG, which isn't the case with the Kona. In terms of ride comfort, both the cars have that initial layer of firmness because of the 17-inch wheels, more so in the MG, which has lower profile tires. However, MG's cushier suspension does a better job of absorbing road shocks. Low-speed ride quality is much better in the MG, and even at highway speeds, it doesn't pitch or bob too much. Now, what the Kona has is multi-link rear suspension, but there's no shying away from the fact that the Kona's ride at low speeds especially is on the firmer side. On the flip side, however, at highway speeds, the Kona rides flat and composed. Also, when you're tackling corners, it is the Kona which feels the sportier of the two. Now coming to the most important part of this comparison, which is the range testing. Now we drove both these cars back to back in the city, on the highway, under similar conditions, and it wasn't a surprise that the MG with its larger battery pack was the better performer. In our tests, the MG managed 317 kilometers on a single charge in the mixed cycles, whereas the Kona managed around 250. So if your usage is 50 kilometers per day, it is very much possible to drive either of these cars from Monday to Friday on a single charge. And with a bit of planning, you can also use them on the occasional highway trips. In terms of charging, these cars come with a wall box charger and a portable charger, and both support fast charging. Using a normal 3-pin 15 amp socket, both these cars will charge around 10% roughly every 2 hours. And to fully charge the battery from zero, it would take 19 hours in the Kona and around 20 hours in the ZS. Using the wall box chargers, the Kona can be charged in 6 hours, whereas the ZS would take 8 to 9 hours to fully charge its battery. The MG ZS EV looks like a more conventional SUV with its tall stature and raised bonnet. It gets these loud badges, however, to help distinguish it from regular internal combustion engine cars. Overall, it is both longer and taller than the Kona. The Kona, on the other hand, looks rather futuristic in its appearance, and although it has the thick plastic body cladding to beef up its appearance, its stance is lower and more like a crossover than an SUV. The Kona has a longer wheelbase, and it also has a higher ground clearance when compared to the MG. And what are they like inside? The interiors of the MG ZS have a German influence. It's very Volkswagen, and several bits like the steering wheel, the air vents and some switchgear feel extremely high quality. The seating position is more upright, and this one feels more SUV from behind the wheel. On the occasion that you're chauffeur driven or when you have passengers in the back seat, the MG ZS EV feels spacious and airier of the two cars. What also helps is this massive panoramic sunroof. The floor in both the cars is quite high, so you're seated in a slightly knees up position, and thigh support isn't all that great in either of the two cars. The Kona's interiors look a bit bland in comparison to the MG. Now, there are not too many soft touch materials to speak of. However, the quality of plastics and fit finish is rather nice. The overall layout is very minimalistic, although practicality is quite good. And what's particularly nice are these gear selector buttons. Now, they are convenient and very easy to use. Even in its lowest setting, the front seat of the Kona is placed rather high. Still, out of the two cars, this is the better seat. You have better thigh support, you get lumbar adjustment, and the firmer cushioning means it's more comfortable on a longer drive. And oh, how can I forget the cooling feature? It's such a boon on a day like this. And just like the front, the back seat too is better in the Hyundai Kona. The backrest is nicely contoured and it offers a bit more support in general. When it comes to space, however, the MG is more spacious. As you can see, the front seat is set to my driving position and I barely have enough knee room. However, footroom is at a premium. Where the Kona scores over the MG ZS is when it comes to a third headrest for the occasional middle passenger, as well as an armrest. Both cars offer ample storage areas across the cabin, and both have a decent sized boot. The Kona's is 332 litres, whereas the MG's is at 359, adequate for a family's weekend outing. In terms of equipment, the MG makes a great first impression with its massive sunroof and the connected car tech. However, look closer and even this top spec version has several smaller features missing, like automatic climate control, wireless charging, auto dimming in side mirror, LED headlamps and cool seats being the notable ones. Where the Kona scores over the MG is when it comes to its sportier car-like driving manners, comfier seats and Hyundai's stronger support network. What the Kona gets are some smaller yet significant features like cool seats, wireless charging, LED headlamps, all of which are missing on the MG. Those aside, however, the MG ZS EV is a no-brainer. It offers better performance, its battery has a longer travel range, MG is offering a longer 5-year standard warranty on the car, and it also has more usable space on the inside. Moreover, the MG looks like a more conventional upright SUV, and that's crucial for some Indian buyers. In addition, the MG also has a lower variant which, although misses out some features, is Rs 3 lakh cheaper than the Hyundai Kona, and that could make it a deal maker for some. With so many positives, the MG is quite convincingly the winner of this comparison test.
Back in late 2018, Volkswagen took us over to Amsterdam to attend the world premiere of their smallest SUV, the T-Cross, which we now know will be coming to India in 2021 as the Taygun. However, while we were there, they were kind enough to give us a car to drive around in, the then new flagship SUV, the third generation Touareg. So while we were getting around, I thought I'd get my little GoPro camera out, stick it on the dashboard and tell you what this SUV was like. The Volkswagen Touareg always had a difficult job ahead of it. You see, it has to do the same job as something like an Audi Q7 because that's essentially what it is under the skin, but with a Volkswagen badge on its nose. What I'm driving now is the latest third generation of the car. As you might recall, both the previous generations were on sale in India. And this new one, well, it uses the same MLB Evo platform as the latest Q7, along with other cars like the Lamborghini Urus, the Bentley Bentayga, and even the new Porsche Cayenne. Now, among this illustrious family of VW Group full-size SUVs, the Touareg historically has always had the least conspicuous design, but not this time. Sure, while its shape shows your standard Volkswagen restraint, they've really festooned it with a lot of bling. Look at all that chrome at the front. The huge, shiny grille joins the LED headlamps, there's more chrome in the bumper lower down, and it even flows down the side. The rear, however, is a bit more understated. One thing's for sure, you will not lose it in a parking lot. Our drive with the Touareg today is all too brief, so all I'm going to be able to give you are initial first impressions. Moreover, we don't actually have a camera crew with us today, so what you're seeing is me inside the car and some external shots of the car that Volkswagen shot a little while ago. First impressions then are really rather good. This car is powered by a 3-litre V6 diesel and it's very smooth and very comfortable. It feels just like an Audi Q7. And like I said, it should because that's the car it's based on. The variant I'm driving makes a solid 286 horsepower and 600 Newton meters. And that's enough to propel this 2-ton SUV to 100 kph in a claimed 6.1 seconds. Helping it along, like in the Q7, is ZF's 8-speed torque converter automatic, which works just brilliantly. What I also like about this car is that it feels very, very comfortable. Yes, it's riding on 20-inch wheels, but frankly, these days for a car of this size, that's quite an average size. You get larger wheels on cars this big. I'm not sure if you get them on the Touareg, but this setup feels exceptionally plush. It has a number of drive modes and in comfort mode especially, it feels very, very, very soft. And that's only a good thing. The reason behind that plushness in comfort mode is of course adaptive air suspension, which can be made a little bit firmer in its sportier setting. Also part of the package on this high-spec Touareg is rear wheel steering and adaptive anti-roll bars, aided by a 48-volt electrical system. But we didn't get a chance to really put those to the test. What we did get to take in instead was some of the tech on the inside. As you can imagine, this being a Volkswagen, there is a hierarchy to the brand. It can't be quite as good or as plush or as luxurious as the Audi equivalent. So you can see traces of that inside the cabin. It is very, very well built, don't get me wrong. It feels absolutely solid and the materials are really good. But it does follow Volkswagen's design template. That said, however, Volkswagen has taken whatever opportunity it can to make this as special as it can be. You see, this is now their flagship car, and to that end, there are some things that are rather special. For instance, I really like this textured silver finish on the dash, that's really cool. But more than anything else, what really stands out is this massive touchscreen. It's pretty much the largest touchscreen I've ever seen in a car. It's 15 inches, that's bigger than my laptop. In fact, the only place you'd probably find a bigger touchscreen right now is in the dashboard of a Tesla. And this is actually one key area where the Touareg has a slight edge on the Q7 or Q8. Touchscreens in general aren't ideal, but at least here you have to look at one big one rather than two smaller ones. Wish there were some physical buttons though. Other than that, of course, you get everything you might expect in a big luxurious SUV that would likely cost upwards of 75 lakhs. Heated, cooled, massaging seats, a heads-up display, digital dials, it's all there. Even the leather's nice and soft. Now, this sounds like it's all coming together very nicely, but before you get all excited about seeing this third generation VW Touareg on Indian roads, I'm going to have to burst your bubble. Now here's the thing, Volkswagen hasn't yet confirmed if or not they're bringing this car to India. If they do, it would be in small numbers and it will come at quite a price, upwards of 70 lakh, no doubt. And while that was the plan back when I drove the car in late 2018, things have changed now. Apart from the COVID-19 crisis that's thrown the whole market and the industry into disarray, the VW Group in India has also been completely restructured and is heavily focused on its India 2.0 plans and the Creta rivaling Taygun SUV. But I hope somewhere down the line they are able to bring in a small number of these Touaregs to India. As with the last two versions, they'd make for an exclusive, left field, yet highly capable alternative to the usual luxury set.
Now every year we bring you one interesting drag race that crosses segments. Now this year we did have a very interesting competitor lined up for the Civic, but sadly it didn't make it here. So instead we put it up against India's best camera car, the Innova versus the Civic. Now this one's definitely going to be an interesting one.
So why are we comparing these two chalk and cheese cars, you ask? A 5-seat sedan with a petrol engine and a 7-seat MPV with a diesel? Well, the Civic's 1.8 petrol makes 141 horsepower and 174 Nm of torque, and with the CVT gearbox putting down power to the front wheels, it does a sprint to 100 km per hour in just 11.48 seconds. The Innova's 2.8 diesel, on the other hand, makes 174 horsepower and 360 Nm of torque, considerably more than the Civic, and gets a traditional torque converter, giving it a 0 to 100 km per hour sprint of 11.46 seconds, nearly identical to that of the Civic. So then, with these cars lined up, it was time for the Christmas tree to take over and start the race. While the Civic gets off the line quicker, is more aerodynamic, and of course weighs considerably lower than the Innova, brute horsepower and torque eventually meant that the 7-seater MPV came out on top with a quarter-mile time of 17.104 seconds compared to the Civic's rather pedestrian 18.664. Apart from the difference in power, though, the main reason why the Civic lost is due to the fact that the CVT gearbox just doesn't like full throttle acceleration as much as the standard torque converter in the Innova does. So, and rather surprisingly, 7 seats beats 5.
Alright, it's time to ask a very pertinent question. Are electric cars going to be fun in the future, or in this case, are they going to be fast? So we've lined up the Kona Electric versus the Kia Seltos. The Kona, of course, was India's first electric SUV, and the Seltos has already asserted its dominance over the market and on the drag strip, so it's only obvious that these two go head to head. But which one is going to be faster, EV or fuel powered? Let's find out. First up, a quick look at the spec sheet. While the Seltos makes more horsepower at 140 as compared to the Kona's 136, the electric SUV blitzes it on paper with 395 Nm of torque as compared to the Seltos' 242.
So let's see how these figures translate to performance on tarmac. Right from the get-go, the instant torque on the Hyundai Kona Electric gives it a massive advantage. And that advantage sticks with the Kona right till the end as it crosses the line with a dominant 15.974 second quarter mile time. That's a full 2 seconds faster than the Seltos that ran a 17.913. So for everyone who thinks EVs might be slow and boring, well, judging from how well our first ever EV on a drag strip performed, we might think otherwise. And now it's time for tips on sustainability and protecting the environment with Servo Futura G Plus from Indian Oil. Choose a smaller car if you don't need the size and space. Overloading the car with weight makes it work harder.